Alright, before I dive into this, I just want to say that I'm no genius when it comes to World of Warcraft lore, so anything I speculate in this video is just speculation. But I've got a good feeling about some of the things that I want to talk about. When it comes to new content, Blizzard is always throwing things into the story that foreshadows what's going to happen next. I know it's a running meme that there are no old gods in BFA, but seriously, I'm getting a little too antsy for the Ashara and Azeroth reveals, and I'm itching for some game-changing content. Playing through the story of BFA and watching a ridiculous amount of videos on old gods and the lore and speculation made me realize something about the big baddies in World of Warcraft. There's always this pattern, right? We go to the new zone, we meet the bad guys, and we fight them. And then after that, we wait until the next expansion gets announced and pray for beta access. But I've got a feeling that this time around it's going to be different. Today I want to take some time to get my thoughts out about where I think the story of BFA is going. Honestly, it's right in front of all of our faces and I cannot wait to see it go down. So on that note, here are some potential spoilers for World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth. So I'm going to go into a quick lore sesh for a second. Long story short, the old gods once ruled Azeroth under the Black Empire until the Titans came around and stole the show. Ultimately, the old gods got imprisoned by the Titans so that they could reshape Azeroth in their image. Kinda similar to Greek mythology, am I right? Now since then, we've obviously seen old gods pop up before, but they've never actually made a return. A lot of people seem to think that most of the old god stuff is gonna go down next expansion, but I beg to differ. Guys, I mean seriously, this expansion isn't called Battle for Azeroth because of some stupid faction war. I think eventually we're gonna be fighting to save the planet. I'm willing to bet some serious money that the reason why this expansion started with the faction war story and was marketed heavily with faction pride was because this might very well be the last time, at least for a while, that factions actually matter. I started to think about what would happen if N'Zoth and the other old gods broke free and what that would mean for us. Going back to the pattern that I was talking about that we see with WoW villains, I don't think we're actually going to win this fight against the old gods, just because we've been winning far too much. I personally would love to see us take a big fat L on this one. Because of that, I look at N'Zoth the same way I look at Thanos from the Avengers movies. He's the first villain that we've seen in a Marvel movie that's actually succeeded in his plans. With that being said, there's plenty of evidence to support that we're going to get our asses handed to us.
Yes, you are indeed the ones I seek. The ones to turn the tide.
What does he mean by turn the tide? Well, I think he's talking about the pattern that I mentioned. I think N'Zoth is going to be influencing us in his favor, which is ultimately going to lead to him and his homies breaking free and reestablishing the Black Empire. We're getting something called the Gift of N'Zoth when we first encounter him.
Receive my gift.
And eventually get the choice to either cleanse it or keep it. It seems to me that this so-called gift is what N'Zoth is going to use in order to influence us later on. Kinda reminds me of Cerebro from X-Men, but used to corrupt us.
Get out of my head!
Never.
So not only is it going to be insane to see the return of the Black Empire, but will probably and unknowingly cause it somehow under the influence of N'Zoth. So let's talk about Ny'alotha. I think it's definitely going to be a questing zone similar to Argus back in Legion. We already know that we're going to Nazjatar and Mechagon soon, and I'm guessing that those zones are going to be similar to Suramar in terms of questing. So I think it's safe to say that we'll be getting Ny'alotha as a third max level questing zone. What we'll be doing in those zones, I have no idea. I had a lot of fun with the Suramar and Argus quest lines in Legion, so I'm just hoping that we'll get something even better this time around. Once we finish the story quests on Ny'alotha, I'm sure that N'Zoth and his minions are gonna make their way to the surface somehow, and we're not gonna be able to stop them. If you take a look at one of the Jaina cinematics from early on in the expansion, she actually spills a bottle of black ink on the map. Some people think that Ny'alotha is gonna be between Kul Tiras and Zandalar, but look at this ink. And what sea creature squirts ink? Oh, I don't know, maybe a giant squid that wants to take over the planet? I wouldn't be surprised if that were the spot where N'Zoth erupts from the depths of the ocean and the old god invasions stem from.
This time they appeared to have unleashed the dark and mighty Cthulhu. The rise of Cthulhu from another dimension brings about 3,000 years of darkness, Top.
It would definitely make sense considering that the top right section of Stormsong Valley has such a heavy old god influence. Stormsong is arguably one of the most beautiful zones in the game. But you have to think, why is that? What if Blizzard purposefully made this zone to be one of the most beautiful zones in the game, and to have us grow attached to the zone, only to eventually watch it be the first zone to get completely corrupted by Old Gods? Once Stormsong gets taken over, then what's stopping N'Zoth from taking over the rest of Kul Tiras? What's stopping him from taking over Zandalar? Hell, what's stopping him from taking over the rest of Azeroth?
With its binding shattered, its influence unchecked, it's gonna come after us, and we're gonna be the prisoners.
I personally would love to see Old God invasions sprouting up from different points of the map, just like the Legion pre-patch. I think it would be really cool if these invasions started out as timed events like the current ones, but eventually start to become more and more frequent until both the Alliance and the Horde are overwhelmed. At that point, the Alliance and Horde will have no choice but to band together yet again and make our last stands in one of the major capital cities. And then, once we fail, we're gonna be screwed. After that, where are we gonna go? We'll have been driven out of our homes, we'll have been driven out of our cities that we've known and loved for years, and hey, maybe our leaders might have even been killed in the process. But we'll be struggling to survive, running around homeless and powerless with no one to help us. Unless, will there be? Now this, I'm not too sure about, but I think it's an interesting idea. It was really exciting to see Mechagon get announced at BlizzCon last year, but it felt a little out of place to me given the current direction the story is going in. Why are they all of a sudden introducing a gnome tinker themed zone? Well, I think we're gonna need the Tinker's help to build shelters and weapons for us, since we'll be back to the basics with little to nothing to fight with. It also looks like some of Mechagon will be underground, similar to Gnomeregan. I think we'll have no choice but to hide out underground and bunker ourselves in with the Mechanomes. Since resources will be scarce, I'm sure they'll teach us a thing or two about Mechagon tinkering, don't you think? Anyway, all of this might be a complete stretch, but I'm really hoping that this is what the story of BFA is leading into. Personally, I am so excited to see another world-altering event similar to the Cataclysm. I know a big portion of the WoW community is primarily focusing on classic WoW prep right now, and believe me, so am I. But I can't help but think, why are they relaunching the old world? Yeah, sure, millions of players want legacy servers, but what if the rise of the Black Empire means Azeroth will never look the same again? Too much of a stretch? I don't know. Just a thought. If I'm wrong about anything in this video, I personally want to invite both Pyromancer and Novel to harass me in the comments. I want to give a massive shout out to my boy, MrGM. Without him, this video would not even be possible. If you play WoW and you have a YouTube account, just go subscribe to him. Why not? Thank you all very much for watching, and praise N'Zoth.